Nearly 5.5 years after Noida teenager Aarushi Talwar and her family's domestic help, Hemraj were found dead, a special CBI court will today decide if the girl's parents are guilty of the double murder. Well, the trial court verdict is set to come after a 15-month-long trial. The CBI has accused the dentist couple of murdering their own daughter and the domestic help on the basis of strong circumstantial evidence. Aarushi and Hemraj were killed on the intervening night of May 15 and 16, 2008 at their Jalvayu-Vihar residence in Noida. Well, the case against Talwars is based on the fact that there were 4 people in the house and 2 were murdered, and since there is no possibility of outsiders gaining entrance to the house, the Talwars are the only suspects in the case. The charges against the dentist couple include murder with common intention, destruction of evidence, misleading the police and some others. However, the defense believes the CBI does not have a strong enough case to secure conviction against the Talwars. They point out that there are several loopholes in the CBI's theory and there is no material evidence to link Talwars to these 2 murders.
Scene of crime is not separate from circumstantial evidence. The scene of crime is always a part of the entire investigation. It is correct that the present case is based purely on circumstantial evidence, and the circumstances that have emanated after 39 witnesses have testified. So, if all these circumstances are taken together, these circumstances do not prove to the hypothesis of the guilt of the accused. That is what we have argued before the court.
In this country, there is no law, there is no punishment for telling lies. You can make one statement even before the court. You had that case of a gentleman who was involved in match fixing. He gave a confessional statement and he said, no, he is forced to do this thing here, and he retracted on this one. So a witness can say one thing today and he can change it tomorrow. I never said on this one. There is, except in one case of Zahra Sheikh, where Supreme Court sentenced the lady to perjury, 1 year imprisonment. Nobody else has been punished in the country for telling lies.
Well, it's been a year and 4 months since the trial began in Ghaziabad in Uttar Pradesh, and more than 5 years since Aarushi and Hemraj were found brutally murdered at the residence of the Talwars in Jalvayu-Vihar in Noida. The parents now facing trial for the murder of their only child in the domestic help and also several other charges, including destruction of evidence. At 6 in the morning on the 16th of May 2008, Talwar's help Bharti had arrived at their residence. She rang the doorbell some 4 times. Hemraj, like other days, did not open the door. Nupur Talwar opened the door for the domestic help. Known to be late risers, the couple were awake. The world knows what happened post 6 a.m. at the Talwar's residence. But what happened on the intervening night? The night Aarushi Talwar and Hemraj were killed. Those crucial 6 hours of what happened at the Talwar's residence that night, Aarushi was murdered.
The sordid saga began here 5.5 years ago. It is this house in Noida where 14-year-old Aarushi was found murdered. A tragedy that sparked off unprecedented media frenzy, a slew of conspiracy theories, more twists and turns than a memory can serve, or even a Bollywood potboiler.
16th of May 2008. 14-year-old Aarushi found dead in her room. Her head smashed, throat slit in one of the posh localities of Noida. Distraught parents, a doctor couple, Rajesh and Nupur Talwar, called the police. Suspicion falls on domestic help Hemraj, who is also missing. But a day later, Hemraj too is found dead on the terrace of the family house, murdered just like Aarushi.
The case is puzzling as there are no apparent motives. There is no sexual assault and there are no signs of a break-in. All that's found in the room is a bloody bottle of whiskey and Aarushi's clothes soaked in blood. But within a week of the murder, the case took a sensational turn.
Let's take a look at events on the night of the murder. Someone entered the house without any signs of forced entry and made their way to Aarushi's room, where they killed her and left her body in a pool of blood. This happened between 12 and 1 a.m. Around that same time, the killers also killed Hemraj and dragged his body up towards the terrace, leaving it there in a pool of blood. They then locked the terrace door, made their way back down into the house, stopped at the minibar in the living room and drank from a bottle of whiskey. This bottle of whiskey has blood stains of both the victims on it. Throughout this time, the Talwars claim that they've been sleeping in their room, a claim that's even more astonishing given the small size of the flat. After that, around 3:43 a.m., a crucial bit of evidence: someone entered Aarushi's room and turned off the internet router. Presumably, this person entered the room when Aarushi's body was present in it, 3 hours after she was killed.
According to the agency, the murder was committed by Rajesh Talwar between midnight and 1 a.m. Talwar was apparently surfing the internet till 11:50 p.m. A golf club was used in both the murders, says the CBI. The size of the injuries matched the golf club. There was no sign of forced entry, the door could be opened from outside, and the keys were always with Nupur. The crime scene was dressed up and the room washed, with Aarushi's body wrapped up in a bedsheet. The bed linen was undisturbed. Besides, there were surgical cuts on Aarushi's neck, which could have been made only by a doctor.
The CBI did, however, make it clear that the evidence against Talwars was only circumstantial. They had no concrete evidence to prove their guilt. Even the closing arguments of the defense focused on this fact. What this means is that whichever way the decision may go, a sliver of doubt will always remain. With camera person Ashwini Henel, Vijay Kao, Delhi, Headlines Today.
All right, and my colleague Aditi Ananthanarayanan is joining us this morning from outside CBI Special Court in Ghaziabad, where this trial has been going on for almost a year and a half now. Aditi, arguably one of the most intriguing murder mysteries that we had seen in the past few decades. And today, in a way, we would know whether, based on circumstantial evidence, the agency which has been investigating these murders, the CBI, can secure a conviction.
Definitely, Ruchika, for 5.5 years this case has been going on. In fact, over the past 1.5 years the trial has been on. In November this year, the arguments ended both from the CBI side and from the defense side. In fact, CBI is very sure that it is the Talwar couple who is behind the murder of both Aarushi Talwar and their help servant Hemraj. But the Talwars, on the other hand, have been standing on the fact that there are no circumstantial evidence which are against them. In fact, the weapon in this entire incident has not yet been recovered. The CBI till now has not been able to find the fingerprints found on the bottle of the whiskey that was present, which had the blood stains of both Hemraj and Aarushi. In fact, also the CBI could not establish the fact that when Hemraj and Aarushi were killed, where exactly were Rajesh Talwar and Nupur Talwar, given the fact that they are saying they were in their room on that night and they could not hear anything that was happening. So the CBI on one side, Ruchika, has not been able to establish a lot of documentary evidence and documentary proofs against the Talwars. But as far as the CBI's defense is concerned, Ruchika, the CBI is very sure that it was the Talwars who had killed. It was a case of grave provocation which actually led to the death of Aarushi Talwar. Rajesh Talwar and Nupur Talwar first killed Hemraj, and then they went on to kill Aarushi, and Nupur Talwar was actually behind the destruction of evidence.
Right.
We have the CBI's case on one side and we have the Talwar's case on one side. Now it will all be decided by the CBI Special Judge S. Lal, who will decide whether the case will go in favor of the Talwars or whether it will go against the Talwars. So today is a big day, Ruchika, when it will be decided whether the Talwars are guilty of the crime, guilty of the murder of their 14-year-old daughter Aarushi Talwar and their maid Hemraj or not.
Absolutely, and several theories that have been floated by the probing agencies, including Noida Police initially, but it all depends on whether they are able to convince the courts beyond reasonable doubt. Thank you very much, Aditi, for joining us this morning.